1, 2, 3. Near enough.
Yeah.
I feel like I say that. Yeah, I feel like I say that at the start of every one.
It does feel scripted, me going, it's in there somewhere, we'll find it. Or
yeah.
Nearly.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, because I run the title card over the beginning of it, we could have it scripted every time.
Yeah.
We don't, but we could. Now, right, for context, what we spoke about DRH and other things that it could stand for, and we had Dr. H. So this week, as I am Doctor, I'm wearing my doctor's lab coat just for context. Not if anyone's watching this thinking I'm wearing like a badly fitted white shirt. That's not what it is. I'm wearing a doctor's lab coat. So that was the bit. I'm now gonna take it off because I look like a bit of an idiot in a lab coat.
If you all want to see Charlie doing fancy dress every week, hit us up on Instagram via DRH Pod. Let us know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. Do you want to hear some of the suggestions we've had for DRH? And anyone listening or watching, if you've got ideas for what DRH could stand for, other than Digital Rabbit Hole, of course, then do let us know. Got a couple of good ones here.
Right.
Dirty Rotten Hobbitses, said in the voice of Andy Serkis's Gollum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one, Dusty Robot Huggers.
Oh, I like that one better. Yeah. I'm thinking like a post-apocalyptic sort of setting, and all we do is venture out and hug dusty robots.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and they don't have to be as family-friendly as that. I mean, you know...
The bluer the better.
The bluer the better, to a point. If they're really dark blue, they might not get said. They might not get read out on the pod.
No, we'll just bleep the whole thing. People will understand.
But yeah, let us know. And in general, I'll admit at the time of recording this, we've been a little bit quiet on Instagram this week because, as I'm sure we'll get into, we both had pretty hectic schedules since the last recording. But do get in touch on Instagram via DRH Pod. As I say, in the comments below on YouTube, rate and review us, please, if you can, if you listen on Apple Podcasts. I think you can favourite or like and things on certain other podcast apps as well. So I'm sure that'll help us in the algorithm if you can do that. If you actually like us, or if you just listen, if you hate listening to us, then you know if it's like a hate watch, because we all like a good hate watch every now and then.
I mean, do it anyway.
Don't worry
but
about
like,
it. Oh yeah, do it anyway. Yeah, you're right.
And then just give a shit about it. That's fine. We can take it. We're protected where we live.
I've been quite lucky in the call to trolling me a few weeks ago. It's probably a couple of months ago at this point. But...
I think you got away extremely lightly. Like it could have gone really wrong.
I'll just keep reminding people if you do want to troll me. Then speaking of trolling, actually, I've always been doubtful of how toxic the internet really is, because, like, for example, when I was Twitch streaming, when we've been Twitch streaming, when we've obviously posted podcasts, like, everyone's really nice and supportive, and even when there's not loads of interaction, what's there seems quite nice.
Yeah.
I've been playing Rocket League recently.
Right. Okay. Cool.
With a few guys who I work with, we have a couple wellbeing meetings per week, and it tends to usually be we'll have a quick catch up about, and the rule is we don't talk about work things. Although every now and then someone will go, "Lou, do you remember that meeting?" I'm like, "Nope."
Nope.
Right now I don't. For the next half hour I don't. But we'll tend to play Rocket League basically, and I've been getting some real abuse for having the LGBTQ plus however many letters there are now officially. I have the rainbow flag on my car. One, because it looks nice and I've got a colourful car, and two, because why not? It's a little like if it also
it's 2021, get with it.
Yeah, like... if it happens to represent, you know, a group in society, then that's fine. But it just I've been getting some abuse for it to the point where sometimes you laugh and you go, really? Like you say, really? We're still feeling this way about things? But every now and then I'm like, oh, wow, okay. It's just got really dark. So it's taken nearly 30 years or however long I've been on the internet for me to go, oh, this is what people, this is what they mean.
Yeah. And I think like there are that trolling world definitely exists. Yeah. However, it's like any sort of interesting news story or story in general, is that the most extreme versions are always going to be the more entertaining versions. So, you know, you're never going to go to like, oh, on the news, let's bring up a right-wing supporter, let's bring up a left-wing supporter. Of you know, the average sort of normal working person. No,
they go straight to
let's go to extremes, because that is going to be a clash of the titans sort of situation going on. So even though trolling exists, I mean, on a very low level, like, you troll your mates all the time in the real world.
Yeah. Oh,
like, that's how you know your mates love you. Like,
I'm horrible to Charlie off camera. It's crazy.
I mean, the way he does it's borderline bullying. I'll be honest. I've called my mum. She's not happy with it.
Oh, I got advice from her about insults.
She'd know. She's the queen of them.
But yeah, exactly. It's almost like the because I fall prey to this sometimes. The whole snowflakes versus fascists, and as though like that's all that's out there.
Yeah.
Like really weak. Oh, everyone's a beta cook lefty, or everyone's a crazy, right-wing fascist. And it's like the vast majority of people are sat right in the middle, and some things they go that way a little bit, and some things they go that way a little bit. But I think that'd
be boring for a news story, though. That
yeah. Oh, most people agree for the most part. Some things are more nuanced. Back to you in the studio. I'd watch that news channel, to be fair, even if they were just doing bits all the time. Do you know what? I've maybe they were actually fans of the podcast, and when I said feel free to troll me and give me abuse for my gaming or lack ability thereof, maybe they just didn't realise when I said, but keep it keep it PC. Let's not get too hateful.
Yeah, maybe they fell in line with what you were saying. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they weren't. But yeah, how's your week been?
It started off sort of the end of the previous week was quite a hectic one, and then it had gone into sort of not rushing around, but still a lot of work that I've had to do. But it's still been really good. I've actually started to watch, read, and listen quite a few things, but I've not gone to the end of a lot of them, so I don't feel like I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to how I feel about certain things. But yeah, I've been, like I said, watching, listening, reading a lot of stuff that hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to go, right, I feel like I've really got a lot out of this now. I can talk to you about some of the stuff that I've been digesting. What about you?
Yeah, I watched They Live. Well, we might as well jump in with that first.
So this was the film that I saw it popped up on Netflix. They don't sponsor us. And it instantly, the cover art, everything, it took me back to, as a child, seeing it on, late night, one of the channels on terrestrial TV. I didn't have Sky when I was a kid. It was an old film when I first saw it, and I only saw little bits of it. I probably only saw the first 20, 30 minutes. So in a 94-minute film, that's a good, a good portion of it. And then when it popped up on Netflix, it's like, oh, I've got to watch this film now. So it went on the list, and it was a semi challenge to people who watch the pod, but more for you to watch it. I don't remember. Like I said, I probably don't remember definitely the last. The bit when they're in the tunnel, when they're underground. Yeah. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember. I don't remember the watch being able to teleport them or anything of that. So that's a whole. I was going to say sub story, but it's not. There's not really a lot of sub story going on. It's your main.
It's not a lot of story. Never mind sub story.
Oh mate, but this is one of the things I want to talk about it. But yeah, there's loads of stuff that I don't remember.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm exactly the same exactly the same boat. So I rewatched it. I might have said this when you challenged me. I rewatched it in the past few years because I can't remember who it was who released it. Studio Canal, I think it was, did a re-release of a remaster of 4 of John Carpenter's classics, including They Live. There was also The Fog, Prince of Darkness, and Escape from New York. And I bought all 4. They did a 4K restoration, and just a remaster of the actual, the normal Blu-ray as well, because I got Blu-ray rather than the 4K versions. And I rewatched them all, at some point in the past 2 or 3 years, most really.
Yeah.
But I must have watched it half asleep or half in the bag. I don't know, because not only did I not remember, like you said, most of the finale where they bump back into the other, drifter, homeless guy who's suddenly,
I don't
who's suddenly a millionaire, as though like, was he meant to always be a millionaire? Why have they recruited him? It doesn't make sense.
He is like the classic go-to drifter, homeless guy, because he's also the drifter / homeless guy who's on the park bench in Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah. And
I didn't recognise him. But I heard his voice.
We've got a Winter on camera for anyone watching on YouTube. Hello.
Winter is coming. Oh, that took a weird turn. I might edit that out. That was a bit...
don't abbreviate that one. And there's so much of that finale that I forgot, but also so much of the beginning. So my overall thoughts for the film...
It might be quicker for you to list the bits that you remember.
Basically the famous bit in the bank, or wherever he is when he starts shooting up the place. So so my thoughts are, not only is it a film that's so bad it's good, I think it borderlines on like an experimental comedy, like commentary on bad films and action films. I don't know. It's so the pacing is weird. Like the opening, I'd probably say the opening 15-20 minutes is quite dull. It feels very cold and impersonal. Like you're meant to. Obviously, Roddy Piper plays this drifter, this guy looking for work. Obviously, moving from town to town in it's like I know it's like a commentary on Reaganomics and economic ups and downs in America at the time in the 80s.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people would say it was the best time economically for America, and then a lot of people were like, no, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
In certain industries, low paid, and certain industries being harmed. And you're meant to really buy into this really salt of the earth, gritty guy who's like, he's a bit of a hunk. He's a wrestler at the time.
The bit when he's digging the sand on the...
Yeah, and he's just topless and looking great, and it's like, oh, this feels a bit gratuitous.
Yeah. But yeah, they put a lot of effort into making that, I'm from this town. I can't remember what town he's meant to be from in it. And he says, and I worked for 10 years in this mill, and then, 14 banks closed in 1 week, and the work just dried up. And then you've got the very cold sort of, she must be some sort of, not job seekers, but she's trying to rehabilitate people and get them back into the workforce. Yeah. And she's very cold and like, no, I've got no work for you this week. And it's kind of like, no matter what this guy, every guy's done.
Not only is she cold, it's really over the top where she's literally rolling her eyes at everything she says, everything he says. And don't get me wrong, I know that people have bad experiences with employment and that kind of thing, but it felt very cartoonish rather than she's a bit judgmental. And certain aspects of the film and certain performances are like turned up to 11, where you're like, oh, this is like a cartoon. But then so much of like what Roddy Piper does at the start is the opposite. It's so bland. And then as soon as he gets the glasses, all of a sudden he's chewing the scenery or chewing bubblegum, even though he's run out. And it's
so he's only got one thing to do, hasn't he?
Yeah. It's a very odd film, a lot stranger than I remember. In some ways, a lot less campy than I remember. Like I say, that whole opening bit is so slow and so weirdly paced, and a lot of the... This is going to sound really pretentious now, but even a lot of the framing and the cinematography and the camera angles, a lot of it is so jarringly...
We've just had a message come through from the algorithm about pretentious points. It was going to give you a pretentious point. However, within context, it's absolutely fine. So if anything, it says well done.
Yeah.
So that's good, isn't it, Lou? For you there.
I can't remember what I was talking about now.
The framing.
What was the pretentious points for? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Even. It wasn't a lot of and I get super douchey. A lot of the camera angles weren't so far away that it was like look at the city and how run down this part is, and here's, we're saying how small this guy is in the world, but they weren't close up enough where we're following. Do you know what I mean? A lot of it felt very impartial, and I don't know.
I know what you mean, because there's other films around that time where you can see very much copy and paste of like broken down parts of a city, and it feels almost like crowbarred in and stuff like that. But I know what you mean, but maybe I've already got a bit more of a love for the movie going into it. I love the. And I was actually looking out for this before when I started watching it. I did a little bit of research, because apparently that's what we're meant to do when you do podcasts.
One of us has got to. Stuff. One of us.
And they were talking about, the billboards are very, very sort of prominent in my mind whenever I think of the story. And rather than pay for all the advertising, to have the billboards saying what they said, they just matte paint them, like
and
Star Wars and stuff.
It's very obvious as well, and that was another thing where the minute he puts the glasses on, obviously it's jarring because the world's black and white and half the people are like skull face aliens. But there's a lot of, I'd argue, quite bad, and again, I don't know if it's intentional or if it's because of the budget or what, quite bad matte painting backgrounds where.
And they're all static shots as well, not a single moving one, of posters and stuff like that. So it feels very different. This guy is a drifter. He doesn't have a fixed abode. He's always wandering around the city. And because he's always moving, the camera's really always moving. So almost those static shots feel more because of it. But with their small budget, I say small budget, I think it's like 4 million, it's not a small amount of money, but
I think it's 3 million, and I think they got about 13 out of it, so it's not bad going, really.
Yeah, so I think with the budget that they had, what else could they have done? Yeah, really. Yeah. But that idea it's so. I just think it's such a great idea. Yeah. When they're panning across the, I was going to say marketplace, but it's not. It's like a
book stand, like a magazine book stand,
and it just looks. It looks so great. Yeah. Like, even if it didn't have the words like obey and conform and stuff on it, the stark difference between what we all know a magazine looks like, bright colours, writing all over it, trying to catch your attention, to that almost what you think of almost like communist Russia sort of, this is the one, it would just be a box and it says cereal on it. There you go. There's your, and it kind of reminds me in a weird way of, I don't know how far you got in Lost, but when they get into one of the Dharma Initiative pods and they find all the Dharma Initiative like chocolate bars and stuff like that, right. And I think it's all just like, it literally just brown.
It says chocolate bar.
And that's it. You've got one type. Move on. It had that sort of feel about it. Very sort of anti-America in its look through the glasses.
Very like, again, very cold and very propagandist and calculated and... Yeah, it's... I honestly can't decide. We checked in on a quick message beforehand to make sure we're not going to just spend ages saying how much we didn't like it. I both loved it and hated it in equal measure, and I mean hate's probably a strong word anyway. But do you know what I mean? I definitely had. It was a lot more. I mean, I've said it already, but basically a lot of it was way more jarring than I remember, and then some of it was way more low key. And I think maybe this is just I went into it thinking, oh, it's super campy. It's I can't wait. It's going to be silly the whole time, and it's not.
No, it's really not.
But then the bits when it's not silly, it's not as though it gets really serious and real. It just gets very slow and mundane and quiet, and he's probably, I mean, to be fair, it's John Carpenter. He's not afraid to have a bit of dead air. He's not afraid to have
let things sit and percolate and
and just let some. I mean, the fights, it's iconic at this point. If you're into films at all, the fight scene, it's like 6 or 7 minutes. I think is it mostly one shot? At least a lot of it is one shot.
It goes on and on.
Yeah,
and just when you think it's finished, it starts again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it's strange because then, like Keith David, I think he's called, the other sort of main guy in it, the guy who gets him the work. It's
I
funny
really wish he'd
how...
been in it. I wish they'd become the twosome earlier on in the movie.
Exactly. That's what I was going
It
to
would
say.
have been way better as a sort of almost like a buddy cop sort of when they're walking in the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. He's like this really feels like this really classically trained, charismatic, gritty actor, and then obviously Rowdy Roddy Piper's a wrestler who fancied doing a bit of acting. So and you can definitely see where Carpenter clearly wanted Kurt Russell for this. I've read at some point the scheduling or something, it didn't happen.
But Carpenter did like Piper. He was he was a fan. He watched him in wrestling, whereas Piper had no idea who he was, which I think is quite funny.
Yeah. Exactly, and I don't know if maybe it suffers a little bit from that, where you almost need a really gritty actor to make the comedy bits seem funnier, to almost be the foil against the world. Yeah.
I think Piper did a good job. I do like him. I think he is very charismatic, and I think I wasn't a big wrestling fan at the time. Like, I didn't have Sky when I was a kid, and then I don't watch wrestling now. But he's not.
Yeah, because you're an adult.
Because I'm an adult.
I said that when I've got cartoon CD covers behind me and Funko Pops of anime. But yeah, we're only joking. I like wrestling. I'm only joking.
But looking at it as like a piece of 80s sort of art.
Yeah.
I don't think he screams, "Oh, he's a wrestler." Because even the fight scene, like, there are some wrestler-esque moves in like the body slams and stuff like that. But it's not all. Like, it's not. You couldn't go, "Oh, that could be in the ring." Yeah,
it's not like The Rock doing the people's elbow in Scorpion King or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, going back to that fight, there's a bit in it which I just absolutely love. So, is he called Nader? I think he's called Nader. Yeah. So he loses his glasses. And he goes back to where he stored all the box of glasses. They've been put in a bin. The binmen have come and taken it away. He gets into the back of the bin van, gets his glasses out, gets a new pair. And then...
and for our American listeners, trash.
Right, trash.
The trash van guys.
So, and just as he does, like magic, Frank appears. How did he know he was there? I don't know what, but anyway, Frank.
There's lots of that in this film.
Oh yeah.
Very convenient. The script is very much we need to get from A to Z. Just hit all the points. Don't worry about who's where and why and how. Yeah.
And so Nader stood there with his box, his empty box, and with his new glasses on. And Frank turns up and very kindly, like, even though I know you're a murderer, we had a conversation about a week ago. And we're best mates. Here's a week's worth of money. Throws it, and it goes right inside the box. And I was like, "Oh, do you think they did that the first time?" Just went, nailed it. It's in. It's in. And I just thought it was so cool. And he tossed it in. It's like, great, nice one. I think he must have been like, Keith must have been like, right, yeah, that's my bit now, lads.
He's thinking, stay in the moment, say your lines, but really he's also thinking, I want to jump up and go, come on, guys.
Yeah. There's a bit in Fight Club where when they're all in the house together and someone comes in with beers and there's a guy sat there watching telly and he chucks him a beer and he catches it in his hand and puts down. And on the director's commentary, the guy was really happy about it. And just before the camera moves, you see him just go, just a cheeky little smile just pop in because he's bunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love it.
Yeah, that little thing. I did think it was a really cool bit. When I'm gonna say the line. I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Great line.
Yeah. So bad it's good. Again.
So bad it's good.
There's lots of lines like that where they don't all land.
Yeah.
And some of that is, Roddy not being a traditionally trained actor, but that one, it feels like a wrestler line.
Yeah. Well,
and I think
it's his line.
Is it? All right, there we go.
He had. So from the bit I've read is that he has had a book of all in-ring jibes and sentences and comments that he would have when he thought of it and go, I'm going to say that in character, while we're filming the wrestling. And that was one of the lines from it, and it went in. And you could argue that's the line from this film. That is the line, and it's in The Simpsons. It's in it's as if The Simpsons is like this niche thing that never comments on anything. Yeah. So it's a great line. But then after he leaves the bank and he's been shooting up the bank and he's been shooting they are aliens in it, but I think Carpenter always referred to them as ghouls, which kind of makes sense with the way that they look. But anyway, when he goes out of the bank after this killing rampage, a copper comes around the corner who's not a ghoul, and he doesn't shoot him. And I think it was obviously a very, very important decision that was made, that he's not nuts. He's not, even though he's been shooting a load of people and firing his gun, his rifle, shotgun and everything. He's not in a frenzy. Everything was targeted. And then when he had the option to just kill this copper to get out of his way, like, no. He's on a mission, at least in his own mind.
He's still the good guy. He's still the hero.
Yeah. But it did make me think, like, God, could the ending of the film be re-edited as if he's just gone fucking nuts?
Yeah.
That it's all in his mind.
I thought exactly the same. We've had off-camera conversations recently about something we'd like to talk about.
We've got an episode coming up, haven't we?
Yeah. About the idea of re-editing films and not remaking it. Literally, if I take out these two scenes and if I move this from the front to the start, can you recontextualize a film? And I thought exactly the same thing of, there's enough in here where you could even keep in the bits where he's looking through his glasses, but then take out the scenes where other people look and see the same or whatever. And he's just a crazy guy.
There's only a few of them, isn't there? Because even the woman says, Holly, the character who played Holly, the character, when she says, if I look through the glasses and I see what you see, but even if I look through the glasses and don't see what you see, I'm going to tell you I see what you see. It's like, when you're a hostage and the guy's got a gun, it's like, she says all the things like, you're in charge. You are the boss.
And it's funny as well, because I noticed as well this time, I always thought of it as they're just aliens, but like you say, they're referred to as ghouls, and they're actually interdimensional. It's not just a
throwaway line
planet.
in the big banquet sort of celebration of the 37% increase that all the compliant humans have got in their wealth.
All the 1%ers, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be me and you there, Lewis. handing out drinks.
One thing I took away from this that I do want is Roddy Piper's hair. I've joked for years saying I want to get a mullet in, and obviously Theo Von's become popular. Bobby Lee has now copied him. So comedians, funny, charismatic people. And then I thought, oh, well, why not? I mean, I can give a mullet a go. But it made me. It was the whole tight, dad blue jeans, very American,
teamed with a blue plaid shirt.
Yeah, tucked in.
Yeah.
Up to the up to
big
the waist.
Brass belt buckle on it as well.
The thing I've not got though is the physique that you can get away with that. Where you go, I mean,
I thought you were going to say guns. Then I was like, don't lie, Lewis. You know people.
Something interesting. I always think of this as a John Carpenter written film, and then when the credits were rolling, I was like, "Oh, Frank Armitage," but it was Carpenter wrote it under a pen name.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's used that same name for other films. I think off the top of my head, maybe he has. Again, I've not researched that. I wanted to keep it quite fluid, But is it because he was embarrassed? Is it because he wanted to keep? I don't know.
I mean,
what's the thing?
He's written the screenplay, but it's
based on a short story.
Yeah, what is it? 8 o'clock in the morning or something along those lines.
I'll find it.
Yeah,
8 o'clock in the morning by Ray Nelson, and then Carpenter wrote the screenplay based on that, but under a pen name, which. Not sure,
he wrote it based on the comic book adaptation of that short story.
Oh right, okay.
No. Yeah, it was. I'm just trying to find it on my notes now. I could have just pretended like, oh yeah, it's by Eclipse Comics, but yeah, it's in my notes. Yeah. I'd actually be quite interested to get hold of that, or even if it's only in like a digital form or something, to have a look at how the differences between it and what sparked Carpenter to want to do an adaptation of it. I did think actually when I was watching it, because Keith David is Childs, isn't he, from The Thing?
Yeah.
And there was I had this sudden sort of thought that popped into my head. Imagine Childs survives everything that happens in The Thing.
Goes back
and then
home,
ends up in this situation. Yeah. I was like,
starts getting punched by hunky wrestlers.
It's like, this guy gets no fucking luck at all. Yeah. Like, that'd be because he's called. In my story, Frank is his first name, and in The Thing, Childs is his surname. So now he's Frank Childs, and this is the story of his life told through two movies. And then actually, there's another small acting part by an Asian American actor, which I've lost his name. It's Al Leong. I think it's pronounced. I probably butchered that, but I'll pop a picture up. He's very recognisable.
Is it the stuntman who's in every 80s and 90s action
film?
Yeah,
he's in Big Trouble in Little China, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, and I like to think that he's the same guy in all these films. And again, like Frank Childs, because now that's his name, he is just going from like he's in a group. They do something wrong, and he goes, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again. I've learnt my lesson." Then he goes to wherever they live is set, and he goes, "I'm going to work with the good guys, trying to oust all these aliens," and then it all goes wrong, and he just goes from horrendous situation to horrendous situation, flicking backward and forward between being a good guy and a bad guy, and at the end of it, he's like, no matter what I do, I'm stuck in these horrible gunfights all the time.
That's because I only recognised him, and it's funny that I did recognise him. I only noticed him in the alley when the police turn up, and you don't really. It's not like the camera's on him. He's just that he's obviously as a stuntman, not even as an actor.
Yeah.
Just shooting back and running.
I actually noticed him when he turns around and his long hair that he's got in most of the movies flicks back. And I was like, that's him.
Yeah, that's the guy.
That guy.
I wonder what he's doing now. I'm going to Google it after we've recorded.
Hey, well, I went on there and the guy works.
Yeah.
The guy does a lot of stuff. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because some of the themes and the topics in the movie, you could argue, are more relevant today. To a lot of people. There's that line, I think it comes up a couple of times when they talk about the golden rules. So basically, whoever has the gold makes the rules. Yeah. Now, we live in a world where we are the most highly educated generation, but we're also the poorest generation historically, looking at, generations that go by. And it's like, that's a weird...
Are we the poorest? Do you mean in comparison?
Yeah,
maybe in comparison.
Comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
And... so we're the most educated, but we're the poorest. If we're the poorest, that means we don't have the gold. If we don't have the gold, we ain't making the rules.
Yeah.
And I think... I don't know if you could... because when I was watching this film, and even before watching it again, I was thinking, this would be a really good remake. However, I think it'd be really, really difficult to do it now, because straight away, it's the internet. Their main consumption of sort of media in the 80s was, TV, as in news, and then magazines and billboards and street advertisement and stuff like that. Now, you could say that we get ours all from the internet now. So even though it'd be one location to get all that subliminal messaging coming through, I don't know how much of people moving around in the real world, as in actual conversations, could we do?
I did think about this as well, and I do think this would warrant a remake. But you'd either have to go full slapstick or go serious and real with it. I think tonally, it'd have to be a remake that isn't a remake. It'd have to be a remake of the idea and the concept.
Like a reimagining, yeah.
Not the film, like the Total Recall film, which I know gets a lot of stick, but I remember not hating it. The Colin Farrell one, which everyone was like, "Why are you remaking this classic Arnie film?" And it's like, well, no, they actually tried to better adapt the source material. The Arnie one is nothing like what it's based on, for the most part.
I really like both of them for completely different reasons. The visual imagery of the tunnel going through the planet in the Colin Farrell one, which is in line with the book. Is really, I think it's a really cool idea.
Exactly, and I think that's where I'd like to see this remade or adapted in some form is a. Like I say, either go, full comedy and almost, again, I don't know whether you'd make it set in the past maybe or what, but I mean, everyone's got this on them 24/7, so there's definitely room for, even if it's way more. Oh, it's just that the signals that devices are giving off. I mean, you might lean into the conspiracy crowd a little bit at that point, but you know what I mean? That idea of... I
mean, I was just thinking that maybe set it a bit more into the future where people, almost like a Sword Art Online sort of feeling where people are going into a digital world. But then, if you squint and tilt your head slightly to the left, how far away is the Matrix movie from They Live, really? I'm not trying to say the Wazowskis ripped anyone off. I'm definitely not saying that. I absolutely love The Matrix. But if you look at the sort of control side of it, is it that far away from it, really, but in a completely different medium? So, yeah, just looking through my notes to have a look at what other interesting little tidbits I've got. The sci-fi looking communicators that they have down in the tunnels, they are the Ghostbusters ghost trackers that they just reused.
Oh, I didn't recognise any communicators.
It's like a palm held thing with two lines coming off the top of it with lights up and down the side
like a little
of it.
walkie-talkie that the soldiers in the in the
underground. Yeah,
this is one of those films that I do fancy rewatching again with a director's commentary or even
interesting.
Even better talkers than us, even if it's like a podcast or a film reviewer or someone doing a commentary over it, because it's not a criticism necessarily, but because the themes are quite universal and quite relevant, but the actual story is so shallow that I'm quite happy just seeing what's happening and following along to somebody saying, oh, here's information about this scene, here's information about that scene. And that I'd quite like us to do a commentary at some point again. I know we did it back in the full screen days for anybody who's followed us from there. Maybe not this film necessarily, but I definitely think there's some out there that I think we could have some fun with doing a commentary track over. Yeah.
Oh, I think that, I love a good commentary track. Well, especially, if it's about the movie that you're watching, that's even better.
Yeah. There are some I've listened to. Like, there's certain films that I've watched 1,000 times that I can just listen to the commentary track and I can see it in my head. But that's, it's the original podcast when you think about it. I know people say radio, like talk radio, but for me, film commentary is the original podcast, really, because it is literally just, most of the time, two creatives who either made the thing or love the thing and have an idea of how films work and how books read.
A couple of people from either side of the camera talking about the experience
exactly.
of it. Yeah, I've just looked through my notes. I've got 3 things that I kind of want to get said before I just waffle on about other things. There's a guy called Jeff Imada, I think that's his name. He was one of the stunt he's a stunt coordinator on it, but because it wasn't really working out with one of the actors who was playing the ghouls / aliens, he ended up playing pretty much all the aliens in it. This one guy, which I thought was pretty cool. But in a way, does it work because they're all the same body shape, and does that give an image or an idea that the aliens are all quite uniformed and not necessarily got the diversity that humanity has got?
No, well, they might not do.
Yeah, I mean, just reading too much into it.
I think that works, because if you look at a lot of animal species, for example, there's certain ones that don't have much diversity in their genetic makeup. So maybe it's just an aspect of they're so evolved, this interdimensional race that could be billions of years old. They might have evolved to the point where all the diverse genetic variances have all kind of merged into we're just this grey,
it's been weeded out,
face thing. Oh maybe it's a really dark thing that it's like a
selective breeding.
I can't think what the word was, but
my other point that I wanted to bring up is, and again it's a credits thing, is that John Carpenter and the music side that he has in his films, and I always forget every time that. And then he was saying that a lot of it was improvised. It's like, the bastard! His secondary skill, and he's just improvising on the day. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think they were playing the film and he was just there like plunking away.
No, I think he does. I think he does a lot of the time. I've watched stuff on it where he tends to
what a shit!
play the film in real time. And again, give him some pretentious points or takes him away, however it works.
Oh, he's not going to be happy about that.
He'll tend to literally sit and just mess around on a Casio while the film's playing in real time, and goes like, "Yep." Because don't get me wrong, not all of his scores are great. I quite like the simplicity of some of his scores, but it's very divisive. Bit like I think a lot of.
But if it works, it works.
Well, yeah, but I reckon a few people we know who are a bit more clued up and musically trained might go, no, this feels like someone's just sat messing around on a kid's keyboard, and it's like,
well, it's funny you say that, because we could have an episode coming up in the next few weeks that will.
With some professionals.
Have we just plugged 2 potential episodes?
Yeah. Let's never release them. Let's always talk about them every week. Oh, we've got this music one coming up.
They were the best ones. Never released. And the last thing I wanted to mention, it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the conversation, but one of the things that I was thinking of going through the film is that I love that it's that they're kind of more the everyman. You know, Frank Childs is in there. You know, rather than having your, you know, oh, this situation's happened, this is the perfect guy for it, XSAS, you know, whatever. But then it did start making me think, wow, you know, they control the whole world. How are they going to resolve this at the end? And they did that perfect Carpenter thing of, well, no, they don't resolve it. They just open it up for the world. Yeah. There's no and it's all okay.
Yeah,
if anything,
exactly.
you can almost start the film at the end of the film and go, shit, what do we do now that the whole world's suddenly woken up to all of this?
Maybe that's what we need, a sequel rather than a remake or a reboot or a reimagining.
Oh God, that'd be brilliant. Whole different set of characters. Mm-hmm. They're just going about their everyday lives, and suddenly,
like an ensemble piece, like an anthology. Maybe it's maybe rather than a film, maybe it's a series, and each episode is somebody in a different position or a different part of society. Because quite interesting to see how the ghouls respond, how the elites respond, and then do people backpedal and go, oh, we never knew about it? Do governments go, oh, this is the first we're hearing about it, when clearly they had a hand, you know.
And what do you do if there's a ghoul who actually has formed really tight bonds with humans, and suddenly their whole life is now brought into question?
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean they're all baddies. I mean, the ones that we see, I think, you know, the very heavy-handed writing of the script is that everyone's walking around the communicator going, oh, he's the baddie, and they're all the elites, they're all the 1%. But you know, there are going to be those characters in there that are just I've just moved to Earth and I like it, and I've got a family and whatever else. Yeah.
Especially the last alien and human interaction that you see in the film. Talking about not going blue. But, you know, you could almost make the story up of like, this guy does, that alien does love her. Like, what's he going to do now? But I just love the open-endedness of the end of it.
No.
Which is brilliant. But you know what? I was actually thinking about it. God, can you imagine at one point, like right at the end, Piper turns to a reflective surface while he's wearing the glasses and he sees himself as a ghoul. Twist. That would have been brilliant.
So I had a similar thought. Yeah, I had a similar thought last night of how is he suddenly so able to deal with everything, and we never... I suppose other characters would have reacted to him with the glasses, or maybe... I don't know. I did think, like, what if is a ghoul and he doesn't know? And because he's very mysterious. I know he says at the beginning, I worked for 10 years in this other place, but there's no evidence, there's no proof. It's just, he's just a drifter who just turns up. And I know what you mean. They do try and posit him as the everyman, but he does handle every situation. So
well, speaking as everyman myself, I could definitely handle that situation. You know,
maybe that's a short film we can make.
So I am all out of bubblegum, so I'd have no choice but to sort it.
Let's pitch it live. Let's make a short film sequel called They Fail, and it's just us bumbling our way through the situation.
The Bubblegum Chronicles. I won't fluff the pronunciation of Chronicles though when we actually do it. The Bubblegum Chronicles. Did it again. Fuck it. I'm out.
The Chronicles. The Chronicles, the Greek
I would
hero.
die in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in a cool way. I'd probably get hit by a bus or something, like, just running.
Off camera, even.
Off camera.
Where's Charlie? Oh, he got hit by a bus.
Never even made
in a
it.
fallout of what happened? No, he just wasn't looking.
No, it was 2 weeks ago.
Never even saw the finale. Oh, right. I've my film watch challenge to you and to you at home if you want to get involved. Is an equally, I'd argue, equally relevant in some ways.
Right.
Equally slapstick in other ways. But I'd say an even bigger cult following. Starship Troopers. Paul Verhoeven's.
This is so weird. I was literally watching a video essay about this 2 days ago.
Right. Perfect. Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Ever since we talked about the Ghost in the Shell episode that we tried to do, that cancelled on us like 5 times, or whatever it was, when we tried to record it, I feel like ever since then, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show or something. I feel like I'm being watched all the time.
Well, we've both suffered from technical difficulties all the time since then, and we've both keep stumbling across. Do you remember we were talking about the thing on the pod? Someone's just released a video essay that's like a way better version of what we were talking about, and it's like, come on, man! Like, or such a film's just been announced, and it's like, right, well, we were pitching that in our spare time, thinking, oh, should we do this on the pod? It's like, now we're like, well, now we can't know because we
even something as silly as a throwaway line like full Stamos. Like, apparently we're not allowed to have anything.
Yeah, Red Letter Media is kind of the I guess the podcast or film essayists version of The Simpsons, where like
100%.
if you think you've come up with a joke or a reference, no, they've done it, mate.
No. Right, okay, yeah, I'll take that on. I'll take Starship Troopers on. I might even delve into like the other the sequel films and the animated series. And what about the game as well? I'm joking. I'm not doing.
Is there a game? Oh wow, I need to dig that out.
Yeah,
I do remember Roughneck, Roughnecks, the animated series as well.
Yeah.
Which in my mind, I already know that I upscaled it massively because I tried to rewatch a few years ago. I found a copy that was totally legit, and tried to rewatch some of it and was like, oh wow.
I know that there's an animated. I think there's an animated
film
movie of it as well, and I think I've seen the first sort of 10-15 minutes of it, and it's really good from what I remember. But this is a bit of a weird one that's popped into my mind then. I'm pretty sure that there's a season or version of Power Rangers which has a very Starship Troopers-esque beginning, fighting the sort of the bugs on a planet before they become...
Is it the Lost in Space? There's a few series of Power Rangers. We're going into let's go down the rabbit hole because actually, so I think every other series of Power Rangers connects, or there's like 3 or 4 out of the 20 versions that literally sequelize each other.
Yeah, I think every single Power Rangers version, the Western version of that, I think they all definitely 100% connect. But sometimes it's like, oh, they're just in the same world, but they never meet, and others are like direct. Handing over the baton. I
feel like, especially the space one, I think there's a series where the setup might be that where they're on another planet fighting bugs, and then they end up lost in another galaxy. And then I think there's a series where they basically just lean into it and they're like, well, we're not trying to get back home, we're just here. Or they get back home, but now they've got powers or something.
I think it might be that. I don't think it's probably set in the Starship Troopers universe, but it might just be they've reused the graphics or the sort of the bug designs or whatever. Because I know that in an episode of Star Trek Voyager, they go into Tuvok's mind and they definitely 100% use footage from Event Horizon with Sam Neill in it.
Really?
Zooming down a corridor and seeing Sam Neill's sort of like broken, skinned face, and he does it a couple of times. And I remember rewinding it to watch it. And there's obviously Event Horizon is quite a dark film, and most of the episodes of Star Trek are teeter on the edge of sort of PG-13, 12U, whatever it's 12A, whatever it's called. Like, you know, they teeter on the edge just to, you know, your panic comes in as a parent watching it, and then it drops. Not that I'm a parent, but that's the idea.
We're both dog daddies, which sounds like a way different thing.
That's like a subsection of society, isn't it? But yeah, so they use that footage. I'm almost sure of it. I'll try and find it. If I find it, I'll chuck it up. If not, it's just me throwing my hand in the air like that.
And if you're listening, there's
nothing.
Find it yourself.
Find it yourself. Yeah, cool. We can't do all the work. God's sake.
I think.
So that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to call that a day. We really have gone down a couple of rabbit holes, but I actually think Power Rangers is something we'll have to talk about in a coming episode, because that's a
keeps coming back around, doesn't it? Coming back.
Exactly. There's comic book adaptations since then that are apparently quite good, quite successful. There's a lot to that. So bad it's good as well. A bit like the stuff we spoke about today.
Yeah.
So anybody listening at home or watching, if you want to watch Starship Troopers along with us and let us know what you think. If you've never seen it, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.
Oh going in completely blind from as if day one now. That'll be a watch, won't it?
It's quite a dark but very comedic, very tongue in cheek. I mean, it's Paul Verhoeven, so it's like, you know what you're getting. It's tongue in cheek, but it's very it's not afraid to push the boundaries, and but also there's a lot of good commentary in there. So and via DRH Pod on Instagram, get in touch with us, comments below, rate, review, all that stuff. I feel like we need to be more like these high energy, you know, cool, young, good looking YouTube stars.
I think at this point, dude, people will just see through it and go, why they dialed it up to 11 just at the end there.
Anything else I need to add, Charlie?
No, just remember, guys, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Bye.
Bye. He tossed it in.